Welcome, AP Seminar students. I am going to explain to you what the photo essay assignment is. I will walk you through some important concepts, provide you with some examples, and then at the end of this, talk about the requirements for the assignment project. So first thing I want to establish is revisiting what is an argument. We talked about previously that an argument is a course of reasoning aimed to demonstrate a truth or a falsehood, that it has structure to it, that it contains a main claim, evidence, a line of reasoning, and then that line of reasoning typically presents like main points or what we might call mini claims. So what you're going to do with this photo essay is essentially present an argument using photos only, photography. There will be no words, no text, and you only get 5 photos. So the perfect number is 5. You can have no less, you can have no more. So there's a theme to this photo essay project. So I want you to consider, how do you, in your daily life, how do your actions have potential long-term consequences? So you're going to present an argument through photography that aims to show the cause and effect of maybe a simple action. So for instance, it's been pretty common practice now that many people are trying to get away from purchasing plastic water bottles. And now people are carrying around, glass bottles or metal jars or plastic even. That is like permanent though. It's not something that you purchase and then you immediately throw away. And the idea is that we don't want to necessarily add more waste to our landfills. There's issues right now with recycling where people are trying to recycle and come to find out what we put in our recycling bin isn't actually being taken to recycling centers. So you might pick a topic for your photo essay project that is, environmental, could be something that's social and cultural, could be something that is maybe economic. So you could go various directions with the topic that you choose. So let's talk about building an argument for a minute. So what's really important to consider is not just your ideas themselves, but also how you organize and connect those ideas. That's crucial and important in communicating your message, your claim. So consider this analogy, right? So let's say you have amazing ideas for dance choreography, right? You have designed leaps and jumps and tricks and moves, but you don't order them maybe in a clear and impactful way. And then the message that you wanted to send to the audience or the beauty of the artistry of the choreography gets lost. So you want to make sure the order in which you structure your ideas won't be confusing to your audience, that it will convey an idea and that it will be moving to your audience. So that's important, is the ordering of ideas. Ethical living. So I just want to take a quick moment to explain to you what ethical living is, because it is somewhat related to this topic. So there isn't necessarily a large organized social movement for this. It's just something that people have been doing on their own, in their own life, just making personal choices. Like the example I gave you before about not buying water bottles that immediately you throw out in those large 24 packages. So basically, it's a philosophy of living where you're making decisions in your daily life, where you are aware and taking into account ethics and moral values in regards to consumerism, what you consume, what you buy, sustainability, environmentalism, wildlife, and animal welfare. So when picking a topic, this might kind of like help you to guide maybe the message, the topic that you're going for, where you can think about, okay, ethical living. Where do I need to be more aware of like things that I purchase, how I might be impacting the environment, animal welfare, all kinds of different things where you would be surprised that one simple action that you actually do is impacting the world in a much like larger, grander scale. But we don't think necessarily I'm just one person, that we are contributing to a larger problem, but often we are. So the assignment challenge is to build out a cause and effect line of reasoning to argue how daily actions reap long-term consequences. And consequences, obviously, that has like a negative connotation to it, right? So you're trying to basically show that we are doing something that is not necessarily like good for the environment or good for our culture, and maybe how we interact and treat each other. Maybe something to do with economics, how we're impacting ourselves economically. So basically, cause and effect, line of reasoning to argue that something we do in our daily life, a simple little action, causes some sort of negative consequence, creates ramifications. So I want you to take a look at these photos. So you might see some commonalities between them, right? Like I'm sure you notice in some of them, there are pictures of cell phones, but they're appearing in a random order. So you need to make sure that when you're choosing your photos, that you're thinking of and considering, okay, what order should I place them? How do I pick an order so that I can clearly convey what my point is as the author? Because you are sort of like authoring this argument, right? Now, you're obviously going to be taking these photos from somewhere, and I'll get to that at the end of the project. But you need to really consider, once you choose your topic, you start looking for photographs, or maybe saving them to a folder. Okay, which photograph do I want to come first and second and third and fourth? Remember, you only get 5 photos, and it has to show cause and effect, that one thing leads into the next. So instead of some random order where we can't really make sense of those photographs, I'm actually going to walk you through a deliberate sequencing of those photographs so you can understand how to build an argument through photographs. So I'm going to show you the photographs one by one so that you can kind of see the like sequencing of the argument. So here's photograph 1. Okay, so this is a picture of a cell phone factory and cell phones being manufactured, right? So this is at the genesis of when they're first created. Here's the consumer, right? I want you to think about like how many phones have you had so far in your lifetime, right? And phones are only meant to last so long. They become outdated. You don't have enough memory. The battery life starts going. They're broken, right? And then it's time to go out and get a new phone. So sometimes people pass phones off to other people or they sell them, but frequently they have to just be gotten rid of. No one really can then use that cell phone after it's been broken or damaged or it's lost its battery life. So people often turn to recycling centers where maybe they just donate the phone to be recycled. Like these are some recycling bins at Target. You can actually see the last bin to the right is actually for electronic devices. People sometimes sell their devices to be recycled. So believe it or not, it's like a really big industry right now for first world countries to sell off all their electronic devices, third world countries buy electronic devices so that they can get rid of that waste for first world countries. So, and I'm going to sort of show you how that's led to a problem. So here we have piles of cell phones. And obviously, cell phones are not the only electronic devices that we often need to get rid of or recycle. So in the United States, we have millions of tons of household electronic devices that go to other countries, other sites to basically be gotten rid of. So we have these huge, large e-waste dump sites in third world countries. And so these third world countries make a lot of money off of taking these cell phones, and they're struggling for money. So obviously they're going to take these cell phones. So now you can see the final photograph. And this is like showing you full loop, beginning to end. So where the cell phone started and then where it ends in these toxic e-waste sites. Or what happens is the toxic materials and minerals in the phone seep out into the environment, because often what they do is they set fire to these sites. and it contaminates the land, the water, the air, and it's harmful to the workers, which include children, to be at these sites and breathing in this air and coming into contact with these materials. So this has become a growing issue. So now you can see the progression from, the first to the last paragraph, the sequencing of how everything's been ordered. So from the beginning where the cell phone starts to where it gets into your hands to when you recycle it, it goes to these waste sites, and then how it impacts people. Africa's one of, I think, the leading country that purchases our e-waste. So you can kind of see the sequencing. And obviously this fits the theme that my daily actions, right? So I might not second guess like throwing my phone into that Target recycling bin, but my simple action of doing that and being on these phones and purchasing them contributes to that issue. So you might say then my overall claim, my argument is that the consumption of cell phones is an environmental and human hazard technically. So there's a lovely little arrow to emphasize my point of sequencing. So, all right, I am actually going to provide for you here two different student examples of photo essay projects. So I actually want you to get out a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to take notes on the two examples that I will show you. And I want you to assess these examples as we're going along. So, first criteria, right? So have they met the 5 photographs? Does it seem as if they have a purposeful order in which they are sequencing these photographs? Does it have like that cause and effect order? The next thing would be, does it feel as if there's some sort of claim or argument? Is there some sort of truth that they're trying to reveal, some sort of falsehood? And then lastly, does it seem to build into this idea that our daily actions lead to long-term consequences? So when we get together again as a class, I will go through these examples and you will tell me what you thought of these student examples, okay? So make sure you're taking notes. Okay, so I'm going to show you a series of photos, and I'm just going to say photograph 1 and let you preview it for a little bit, and then photograph 2, and sort of like take it all in and maybe make notes as you start previewing these photographs. So here's the first project, photograph 1, single water bottle. Photograph 2, photograph 3, photograph 4, photograph 5. And that is the last photograph of this project. If you need to right now, pause the PowerPoint and make notes on the photographs themselves, where there are 5 photos. Notice that all the photos, I'm just going to make a quick note, were all of high resolution, right? None of them look pixelated. They're very clear. So you want to make sure you're using high resolution photographs. They weren't pixelated. Don't use snapshots. You want to actually be able to directly save the photograph, whether it's to your desktop or you create a folder. So the right number of photos, were they effectively used in a cause and effect order? Did there appear to be a claim, an argument, to maybe expose some sort of truth or falsehood? And then were they trying to show that our daily actions have long-term consequences? So, okay, let's move on to example 2. Photo 1. Photo 2. Photo 3. And actually, that's where the project ends. So again, I want you to think about the criteria that you're using to assess this second project. So is there a cause and effect order? Does it appear that there is a claim and argument? Are they showing how daily actions lead to long-term consequences? So make some notes about this in this project. Again, we'll be discussing your thoughts on these two projects. If you need to, pause the PowerPoint right now so that you can write down whatever notes you need to. Okay, so finally, let's talk about the requirements of this project. Like I said before, 5 photos max and min. It has to be the perfect number of 5. For some reason, we are always really into odd numbers. So notice in my examples that I showed you, it is 1 photo per slide, right? It almost takes up the whole slide. Use high resolution photos that are not pixelated. Do not do screenshots, please, because those will become fuzzy and pixelated. Save your photos and then insert them. Make sure you're using a logical order, that there is a cause and effect sequencing, and that's clear, that you are very thoughtful about the organization of your photos, and that it walks us through the argument from beginning to end, that there is a claim and argument being presented, that it fits into this theme of what I do matters, right? And you're showing that a simple daily action can lead to larger consequences. And again, yes, all the examples you saw were environmental, but you could choose some sort of social issue or economic issue or cultural issue. So there's various things that can be shown. I've seen really great projects on topics like racism, immigration. So there's lots of other options out there. Not everyone needs to necessarily just race to doing some environmental. So it's good to have lots of various topics so things are interesting for us when we actually do a gallery walk of presentations. So I'm not going to have each person present individually and stand up at the front of the room. We will have computers set up around the classroom where you guys will do a gallery walk and kind of walk around the room and view each person's photo essay, and you will do some peer reviews on those. So that's what we'll be doing in order to present these. So lastly, the last thing I need to talk about, which is super important, is that you need to give credit to the photographers of the photos. So you need to include a citation slide at the very end. So you might start with the title slide, then you have 5 slides between the title slide and the ending slide, which is each one of your photographs. And then the final slide is that works cited slide. So you have 5 photos, you'll have 5 citations. On the class website, where you clicked on this PowerPoint, you will notice that there is a white box that shows you how to create citations for images. And this is important to learn because you will need to do this with any image that you put in your team project or your individual project once we get to those. So learning how to do this is important now. Plus, technically, if you turn in this assignment without a works cited slide, then that's technically plagiarism. I cannot accept your photo essay project unless you have that works cited slide and you give it to the authors, the photographers of those photographs. Okay, so that's really important. Lastly, you can create this slideshow in PowerPoint or Google Slides, but ultimately you have to download this to your Google Drive and then share this with me by Monday evening by 8 p.m. Okay, so you basically have the weekend if you want to start working on this. You have all day Monday in class, and then ultimately the gallery walk will be on Tuesday, September 17th. On the class website, also where I posted this PowerPoint, there are 2 different links there. So if you click on, there's 2 different pictures. One says Unsplash, and the other one says Creative Commons. So these are actually photograph databases where photographers have provided their photos technically for free. They are not copyrighted, and they even say, like, please feel free to use our photographs, but please make sure that you give me credit. So I've provided those. You can link to those. Obviously, too, you can use Google, click on images, right? So I guess that concludes this presentation. I hope you enjoyed listening, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about this on Monday.